Life changed forever with the Industrial Revolution. Cities rose and large factories developed. These factories drew workers away from their homes and into large cities.
Poor people, the factory workers, moved into cheap slums near the factories so they could get to work. Because they didn't get a lot of money from their jobs in the factories, most of them were forced to move into overcrowded slums with unhealthy living conditions.
The rooms they had to live in were dirty and messy. Often trash covered the floors in the whole building. Rats, living side by side with the humans, caused a lot of diseases to spread. They had no running water and often had to use dirty water contaminated with bacteria. Most rooms had no plumbing, so everyone had to use one outhouse.
The rooms were crowded. Often 10 people were squished together in one small room. Everyone was affected by crime and alcoholism.
The air was very polluted because of the proximity to the factories. When people got sick of the air pollution, the dirty water, the rats, and all the diseases, in most cases they died because they had no money for doctors.
For the most part of the day, parents and children had to work in their factories, and child labor was common. Workers had 12-hour shifts in dangerous environments with a lot of machinery. Accidents at work were not uncommon. If the workers got injured, bosses would fire them without any reimbursements. The life in the slums was hard, and survival was priority.
But things would change at the beginning of the Progressive Era. Muckraking, the journalism that would change America. One man changes the life in New York City forever. It was the muckraking journalist Jacob Riis. He was the first person to go into the slums and take pictures of the misery and distress that people suffered from.
He published a book called How the Other Half Lives, and his pictures were shown in public. These are some of the pictures that changed America. The pictures opened the eyes of the rich people because they had no idea about what was going on in the slums. They made the decision that something had to be done. The Progressive Era was an era of change for the better. The governor started to pass laws that would better the situations for the workers in the slums. The minimum wage law was passed, ensuring an adequate wage for the workers so they could live a decent life.
Because people now had more money, more people could afford moving out of the slums and moving into small houses. They passed a law prohibiting child labor and mandating children to go to school to get an education. This put a stop to children suffering from having to work long shifts in factories with dangerous conditions.
At the end of the Progressive Era, the 18th Amendment was released, prohibiting alcohol. Life quality was also increased by the passing of the law of meat inspection on graded meat and the Pure Food and Drug Act requiring an expiration date.
To clean up the slums, sewers were installed and the garbage collection started. Parks and other public institutions like libraries and playgrounds were also built in this area, open for all the public to use.
Hey guys, Physical Emotions here. Today's topic is going to be conflict theory. Have you ever noticed a divide in society between the privileged and those who are not? Such as someone who is rich versus someone who is poor. This is what we call conflict theory. Karl Marx, a philosopher, journalist, revolutionary socialist, and potentially Santa Claus's doppelganger, is considered the father of conflict theory. He pointed out the continuous competition for power between different classes in society and how the more powerful groups exploit those with less. He suggested that social order is maintained by domination, so power lies in the hands of those with the greatest political, economic, or social resources. This often leads to power struggles for those with less. This inequality still exists because those who are in a better position of society actively try to defend this standing. Consider the following. Let's say an individual named, say, Karl Marx, has a minimum wage income and is paying rent for a housing. A conflict theorist might claim that the relationship between Karl and the owner would be strongly unequal. Karl could pay rent for decades and still gain no right or economic interest with the property. Karl doesn't advance his placement in society. He remains in an unchanging position. He pays rent, the owner collects. In this way, the owner remains above Karl, and because of his already advantageous position, is fortunate enough to advance further. So why are the ones with less power stuck in that situation? Can't they just leave if they're treated poorly? Oh, it's not that simple. They don't have any other options. It's a repeating cycle. Picture this. One family wealthy. They can afford to send their eldest son to receive a good education and a lucrative career to follow. Not discriminating against girls, by the way. He then passes on this wealthy torch to further generations and so on. And another family. Both parents have mediocre jobs, but they can't afford to educate their children. So these children later on find similar jobs to their parents, and the seemingly inescapable trend continues. Poverty to poverty, wealthiness to wealthiness. This has been happening since the dawn of civilization. Whether it was the slaves and their masters, lords and serfs, or capitalists and wage laborers. Marx argues that all of human history has always been about this conflict. In addition to that, one of the only solutions is to have a revolution by breaking the political and economic domination by the higher class and reorganizing society with collective ownership and mass democratic control. If only things were this equal and fair, maybe things could be successful for all, and there wouldn't be any more struggle. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Another lesson done by Physical Emotion.